Hello, Wellness fam, and welcome to another episode of Dungeons and Wellness. It is so lovely to have you here today with us for Clarity Episode 4, where we will talk about the things that happened during Play Episode 4 and how we can take lessons from what we saw in the Dungeons and Dragons experience and apply those lessons to our real life. So joining us today, we have, of course, Steve!
Hey, Michelle.
Hi, Steve.
What's going on?
Oh, not much. Happy Saturday, friend.
Happy Saturday.
And of course, joining us for our Clarity episodes, as always, with her insight and wisdom, the one, the only, Kim!
Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Kim!
How are you? My camera turned off. I don't know why.
Oh, no. I was about to say, I love your top. It's so colorful and vibrant.
Oh, yeah. And then it disappeared.
The
I
time.
don't know what's happening. Well, it's okay. I'll fix it, I think.
That's okay. You can work on it. Like I like to say here at Dungeons. Oh, there you are. Amazing. Here at Dungeons and Wellness, perfection is never the goal. So we are all good. All good. And joining us once again for the second time on our channel, we have the amazing DM who brought me into D&D in the first place, Mr. Tabletop Bob. Hi, Bob.
Hey everybody. I thank you for letting me back on. I guess I did all right the first time.
Not too bad, not too bad. We decided to let you back in for a second try.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, I really loved how you played the Bilbo character, and I'm really excited to kind of talk about that and how that all played out today. So thank you for joining us for the second time and for making time for this on this lovely Saturday afternoon.
Of course.
Yay!
Hello.
See,
Clarity? That's clarity for me.
yes, exactly. Oh. See, this is to all the audience members out there, you know, whether you're watching in person or in the future, this is just real life.
It is.
Yeah, we're just a handful of real life friends just like talking about lessons and not really trying to be perfect or polished in any way. We're just coming to you as we are. So thank you for being here with us. Thank you for being here with us with an open mind and an open heart, because that is what we are offering you. All right, man. So let's go. We have a lot of fun things that happened during our last play episode, and so I guess we can just get right into it. This first clip that I wanted to share with you all was something that I thought was very interesting. Caesar and Rand have experienced a little bit of anti-Daenerys sentiment in their experience in Loudwater so far. And this first clip, I think, showed a really an interesting response to seeing this anti-Daenerys sentiment over and over again. So, clip number 1. Take it away. There have been some rumors going around that maybe it's the people from. Have you ever heard of that random little?
If you guys
like,
say
cult in the
Daenerys,
woods? Daenerys, exactly.
yeah,
I heard it was those people.
There's a lot of shit talking of Daenerys in this town, and I just want to be straight up. I'm an adopted son of Daenerys. My man Rand was born and raised there. Those people.
We're here to help
do,
you.
yeah.
You guys are being very ethnocentric about the whole thing.
We are here to help as the only people from Daenerys in this town right now. Just the sample population.
Honestly, we're just trying to get the water deep, but then we got somehow circumvented here. So
and it's not a big
but
thing,
I want to
but like just it's over and over again. It keeps coming up. It sort of builds on you at a certain point.
Kind of marginalizing the poor people of Daenerys, I think, but that's another story. What I'm thinking is there a connection between the thievery and the blight? Is it somehow?
All right, so I thought that was a very interesting interaction. And like right off the bat, when Caesar and Rand, I think Caesar kind of knew what was coming. So Dru was like, if you say Denaria again. And then later on, he says, just hearing this over and over again, like repeatedly, it builds on you at a certain point. And I thought those were really insightful descriptions of kind of the internal experience of not being seen for the entirety of your character, and having kind of the outside world minimize you to just one aspect of your identity. So I guess I was curious to hear, Steve, what has your internal experience been, or what do you think Rand's internal experience would be, kind of seeing this for the first time in his life and just being so discriminated against for being a Denarian?
Well, I mean, it's pretty obvious that people of Loudwood are not culturally competent, are they?
Perhaps they haven't received a lot of sensitivity training.
So Rand, what he was thinking, he probably a little in shock. I mean, he has been sheltered his whole life, and Denaria is his whole life. So I guess coming out of that, that protective shell, his comfort zone, then hearing people, criticize his town and the people, I mean, he wouldn't take that kindly.
Right, absolutely.
So he would get defensive, probably not understand where they're coming from.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Super insightful.
But it's a moment of growth, isn't it? Because I'm sure that exists in Denaria as well. The old-time farmers meeting at the tavern. Oh, those outsiders. Well, we saw it already with Farmer Kranich in a very extreme way, but just sitting there having a mug of the local ale and talking about the people from the other towns and the strangers up in the north there. So he's experiencing the antithesis of that, isn't he?
Oh, I love that you made that connection. Yes. I actually hadn't even made that connection initially myself, but we saw an extreme version of this back in Denaria. Mm-hmm. And Farmer Kranich, that was one of the first things we saw, where he said, oh, the outsiders, they're dangerous. Stay away. And so it feels like a more extreme version of what now Rand and Caesar are experiencing themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good thing that doesn't exist in real life.
Yeah. So thank you for making that connection too. In the real world, sometimes we may experience moments where, people will feel as if other people don't see the whole person, and instead they just see one feature, one characteristic, and they attribute that to just the entire human.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I have a couple questions here, or potential conversation topics. First of all, when that happens to us, right? And I think that's happened to everybody at some point in their lives, regardless of, all the intersectional factors that make you who you are. Everyone has been just kind of minimized to one aspect of their identity at some point. So when this happens to us, how do we handle those situations, right? And how do we not become too defensive? I feel like the defensiveness and the lashing out, I don't know, maybe that is a very natural reaction, but what are other ways that we can handle those situations?
So defensiveness isn't really the way to go. I mean, I know people naturally experience anger. That's a normal human experience, right? Now, the thing that people need to also understand is some people may not know other people don't know your own experience and don't know your own background and your own triggers. So what has to happen is having that teachable moment, right? That moment where you can tell them in an assertive manner that it's hurtful for you, that it's not okay, or things like that, rather than lashing out at them, because then it feeds back. It's a feedback loop. It goes back to their own prejudice and racism or what have you. So it's better to ride with it, basically, in a way that invokes change through kindness.
Yeah. Fill them with kindness.
Yeah.
And I love that kind of growth-oriented mindset where it's like, okay, like I see you and I see kind of where the thought process is blocked in your mind, and I'm here to talk to you and have a conversation and explain more about where I'm coming from. And I love that kind of mutually empathetic approach, that kind of, it pursues understanding in both directions. I love that. And also it kind of makes me think of something that I've been thinking about a bit over the last few months, which is, it's not necessarily about the breakdowns in communication, interpersonal relations. It's not about how you break, it's about how you repair. And so that's so powerful, Kim. Thank you. And then on the other hand, so another conversational idea or kind of thought that I had was seeing this interaction, right? Like Thrum, the head thief that you guys were talking to, this person didn't even acutely realize that you were from Denaria. And so this person was just saying like, oh, have you heard of that random cult in the woods? Those weirdos over there. Like, I don't even remember what their town is called. And then, it turns out actually, oh, my bad. You guys are from Denaria. And so I feel like those kinds of moments can happen unintentionally a lot of the time. And sometimes people don't mean to minimize or hurt somebody, but then they end up doing it by accident, just a slip of the tongue. So how can we, I guess, move through our interactions and our relationships in such a way where we can try to avoid doing this to others? And I guess that's something that I was thinking about as well. Thoughts?
Very hard to change things that are ingrained in someone, I mean, look, I'm a Mets fan. Steve, you're a Mets fan as well. I mean, Philadelphia fans, Philly fans, we don't really get along. But, at their core, they're people, and I can separate the idea that they're fans from the sports fans. But I think some people who have those biases, it's very hard. I think it's got to be an active, everyday, conscious decision to change, and that can be very, very challenging. As long as you're, I think, at least progressing the right foot forward, that's the start. But I don't know how you change it, but completely from your core. It's tough.
Yeah, I love your analogy, because like right now it feels very serious, like, oh, the place of origin, and like this deep, meaningful thing. But like people do this with sports teams too. Like this exists at so many levels in our lives where like a Mets fan and a Phillies fan will be like, oh, well, you suck because you support this team and they're trash, but my team. It's like, okay. I see this occurs in just more than one aspect of our lives.
Some aspects it's okay, like that, in others where you truly, will only see someone for being from a place that you consider like bad. Then that would be, that's something that needs to change. I just don't know how often that does change with someone who's been raised that way. Can be very challenging to change your ways, but possible.
It's going off what Bobby said. Yeah, it's like if you're raised that way and you've lived your whole life that way, it's very hard to change your character. We all have our personal biases, whether it's something like fun, like a sports team, or something cultural. We're seeing it now with Ukraine and Russia. Things that have been going on for generations. What can we do on a personal level? Maybe be more mindful of things, some self-education. I mean, you can't guard your words all the time. That's not reality. And things will slip out from time to time. Maybe you can learn from your mistakes. I think the only thing you do is just be mindful to what you're saying and who you're speaking to, and if you're aware of certain things culturally that you might commit what's known as a microaggression, try to watch out for that. But like I said, you have to be yourself in the end. You can't guard your speech all the time because there's no communication at that point. Then people become too afraid to even speak to one another.
Mm-hmm.
Like, should I not say this? Should I say this? And it's like, oh, why bother? So it's very difficult.
Like Kim said, teachable moments and accepting criticism and feedback, very important.
Yeah, and if you do make a mistake, accepting it graciously, like, okay, yeah, I was wrong. I apologize for that. How can I make it better? How can I improve myself? And if the other person talking truly sees the genuineness, then all is fair in the world.
Yay!
And that's the educational moment, because you can even ask if the person tells you that you gave them offense, you can, oh, what happened? What did I say? And the person can say, well, you said this, and I really don't appreciate that. Or that's to me, that's the wrong thing to say, and that's how you learn.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Yeah. I love that kind of the answer in both directions is maintain the growth mindset.
Well, it's communication from both directions. It's what you need.
Yes, the communication and the willingness to communicate. I think. And this kind of reminds me of, I'm paraphrasing for sure, but the Maya Angelou quote where she says, just do your best. And when you know better, do better. But just as much as you can, just do your best. I love that. Okay, so that's our pro tip, guys. Just stay open-minded. Be excited to grow. Be willing to communicate. People have a lot to share with you if you give them the chance.
And don't cast a fireball at them, whatever you do, because that would not be a good thing. That does not promote education and communication.
So
in the game, it would work. In real life, no.
So disclaimer, though, on a macro level, the world is, it's good and bad at the same time. Like, that's just reality, right? People are not going to change overnight. Society isn't going to change overnight. So some folks who are keeping an open mind, like, continuously may get real discouraged about it. So the key there is really to understand that people have different levels of growth and different seasons, right? Like, some people just maybe have a bad day or have a series of bad days, years of bad years. And sometimes it takes several chances for people to actually understand what's going on. So don't give up. Don't give up being kind.
Amen. This makes me think of another quote I encountered out there in the wild west of the internet. And the quote was, the lesson will repeat itself until it is learned. Kimmy, just give me chills. Okay. Just it resonates. Don't give up being kind. All right. So now we can move on to our second clip. And here we're going to kind of take a turn because in our last episode, of course, we had our wonderful guest Bob, one of the best role players out there. And check out, yes. By the way, check out our latest miniseries, Hidden Shrine of Tomo-chan, where Bob and I are players, and he is playing a character that I am a little bit obsessed with, Bruno. Anyway, go check it out over there, the Tabletop Bob description.
Yeah, and check out Michelle's character, Heck. Doing a heck of a job.
Thank you. Heck is quite stoic. All right.
And while you're there, check out Supernatural 20, our one-shot horror-themed adventures where Michelle and I are in the same party and Bob is the DM.
Yeah.
And while we're doing this, real quick, Michelle, could you turn down the music just a little bit?
Yes, I can.
Where'd he come from?
Whoa. That's weird.
We just need David Attenborough to make a commentary about the endangered Dru appearing.
He's out of nowhere.
Yeah. All right, so Dru, is the audio better now? I can see you, so okay, cool. All right, so here we go. Now we are going to move on to clip number 2. And we had Bob joining us last episode, playing as, of course, Bilbo Althor, father of Rand. And, Bilbo, former adventurer, very rugged type of guy. But he gave up his life of adventuring for a peaceful farming kind of life. And
a very handsome man, too, I might point out.
Yes.
Bilbo.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm,
Yep.
mm-hmm. I would agree. So Bilbo, who of course passed on his dashing good looks to his son Rand.
Rand, of course.
Yes. And so basically Rand and Caesar wrote a note to Bilbo earlier in the adventure, letting him know that we're gone. We're in Loudwater. The people of Loudwater are struggling. Please come help. And this was the first time Bilbo heard from Rand after Rand ran away from home. And so Bilbo shows up to Loudwater where Rand and Caesar are. And the next clip shows kind of the initial interaction of, I found your Rand. So clip number 2, please.
Probably haven't told you, and it's beyond time to tell you now, but I just want to make sure you're okay. And he holds you out by the shoulders, inspects you up and down, and then he looks around towards Caesar, and he looks Caesar right in the eye, and he says to you quietly so that Caesar can't hear it, "This wasn't Caesar's idea, was it?"
It was all Nifty's idea. Everything was Nifty's idea.
And he looks at Caesar and he goes, "Caesar, I trust you've been taking care of my boy here?"
Been doing my best. He's doing great.
No.
Good thing I didn't wear that same shirt. I was going to wear that this morning.
Nice. Something in your soul told you.
Or the Nets today. I don't know if you can see it right here.
Oh.
There's the orange peeking through.
Oh, there it is.
There you go.
That's why you made that analogy earlier. You had the Mets on the mind.
They're on my mind.
Gotcha. Okay, so I thought this was a really lovely scene. And Bob, I love how kind of your very first thing that you said, you could have said so many things like, why did you steal my sword? Or how dare you run away from home? And just the energy that you approached Rand with in that moment, it felt like just a very wholesome, hey, are you okay? So can you tell us a little bit about how, kind of what was your mental process in terms of developing that character in that scene? What were you thinking?
I'll tell you exactly what it was. All right.
Oh, let's go.
My son drives me nuts all day. He leaves toys all over the place. He doesn't eat the food I tell him to eat. He doesn't share with his sister. Gets real bratty sometimes, throws temper tantrums. But if he ran away, I wouldn't care about any of that. I want him to just make sure he's okay. So I was thinking that if I was Rand's father, and you told me a couple parameters. You said he truly is a good person. He was a former adventurer, but gave that up to start a family and settle down. So I think priority would be family. And you didn't tell me I have to be nice to Steve, because I could have been real mean to him.
Yeah, you could have been. You chose to be nice.
Yeah, it would have been great to just, lay the smack down. Yeah, right away. But I thought about it. I was like, you know what? If it was me, I would probably, for all those, small little aggressions aside, I don't care about stealing the sword as long as he's okay. And that's all I care about. Then I try to steer him in the right direction after that, but priorities number one is he's safe and sound.
I love that. Yes.
And that's why you're the best dad in the world.
Thanks, son.
Yeah, at first when you were like,
Oh,
my son, he
shucks, man.
doesn't listen to me, I was like, are we talking about?
No, my real son. My real son.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Steve too, though. He's good.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
He's
He
such a
doesn't
cute
always
little guy.
listen, but he's good. He's good.
I can't see him throwing a temper tantrum every time I see him. He's so cute. He's just like mellow and.
Oh, he's devious.
Ooh.
He gets it from his mother for sure.
Uh-oh.
Maybe.
Maybe people are
uh,
smart people, so there you go.
Oh,
Mhm.
there it is. He's gonna grow up to be a rogue, maybe.
Maybe.
He's gonna grow up to take over the world.
Wait, no, this is Dungeons and Wellness. Okay. So we're not supporting supervillains here.
Aw.
Please don't.
Not yet.
I do.
Kim, you're our therapist.
Exactly why I should support supervillains. They need therapy. They're people too.
Oh my gosh, that's
Hey,
true.
before the stream started, we were just talking about our support for Anakin, the poor guy.
Oh, poor
And
guy.
all the trauma he went through.
man, that dude.
Yeah.
Seriously.
No love for the Emperor, though. Come on.
Oh, he's
That's
the
true.
best.
Maybe
I love him.
Maybe he has a history. Maybe you know what? Like, I feel like this could be a whole clarity conversation on its own.
Oh yeah.
Gotta
For sure.
dog ear this topic.
I've been
Maybe
staring
it's-
at that Death Star, Kim.
I know you are. Everyone always
Very
does. My
cool.
Eyes
clients
are
too.
just they get drawn.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It draws you in.
Yeah. I love it.
Is it the discontinued Lego set?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. So now it's like one of the few in the world or something.
Yeah, those
Or
things
remember
are
what
worth
the guy
a
told
lot of
us in
money.
the store that we can go on that new, I think, the brick set, and you can find the discontinued models.
Oh yes, Bricklink. Mm-hmm.
Bricklink, yeah,
Yeah, so a little side
for an affordable
tangent.
price.
Side tangent for those of you who
Hmm.
are, at home looking for things to do, maybe some manipulatives to, kind of engage the brain in multiple levels. Lego's always a fun way to spend your time,
and
and
sleep all over the floor and step on them. Yep.
that too.
Oof.
That too. They sell
Everyone
they
knows that.
sell Lego slippers now where they look like a little rectangle and they're specially designed so that you can step on Legos and not hurt your feet.
What?
It's a real product that exists, I
What?
swear.
New technology.
Bricklink and Lego slip.
Thank you, Drew, for the marquee.
Those commercials that say, "Oh, this is state-of-the-art new technology," and it's shoes. Like, what?
Uh-huh.
technology?
They're just regular slippers, basically. But they have the
I'm
Lego
gonna have to look
logo
for a
on them.
pair.
Mm-hmm. And I swear, guys, we are not sponsored by Lego. Just
Not yet.
Just throwing that disclaimer out there. But not yet. Not
Not
yet.
yet. Not yet.
I see
If
you.
they make a Star Wars themed slipper, it's mine.
Oh, okay, then we'll talk.
Hey now.
All right. So, oh my gosh. Anyways, back to Dungeons and Wellness.
Family.
Family. Yes. It's like Fast and Furious. So I kind of love here, Bob, you mentioned that, when you get to the heart of the Bilbo character, like he's a good guy and his priorities in terms of big picture are his family and his community. And so I love how you said, like, you didn't have to be nice to Rand. I didn't say that you had to be nice, but you made that active choice. And you talked about how, like, you thought about the big picture for a second and you realized of all the things you could have said, the most important thing was, Rand, are you okay? And so I think there's a lot of value of kind of seeing the big picture when we engage with other people, and recognizing that when we have that big picture approach, then our impact is more likely to match our intention.
Yeah.
So just some thoughts there. Also, Steve, can you tell me a little bit about why Rand threw Nifty under the bus?
That was just a spur of the moment thing. I think I was doing a shout out to Michelle But as far as Rand's concerned, immaturity. That's what kids would do.
Yeah.
It's my friends. My friend made me do it, especially when confronted by the parent.
Oh, would you jump off a bridge if your friend did that too?
Yeah, exactly. Who taught you that bad word?
So-and-so taught me. Right?
That was totally Rand's idea, right?
Totally my idea.
It was. Yeah.
100% Rand. And Nifty and Caesar just kind of followed along.
He's still only 17, so he's not going to have the maturity to actually admit to his dear old dad, oh, Dad, it was my idea, and he's still gonna resort to blaming friends and deflect all the punishment off of him.
So I think it's like a really great point, because to say that to have that scapegoating approach, it kind of shows, like, when you see it in kids, like, you can attribute it to a lack of maturity. Drew and I used to be teachers at the school where Bob currently is, and it's a middle school, so you can only imagine, like, I'm sure we were all middle schoolers at some point, and middle school is full of drama and raging teenage hormones and puberty, and just a lot is happening in the internal world of those kids. And so we do encounter situations working with those kids where, one kid will do something and then like blame someone else and say, oh, it was their idea, even though it was not. And so, like, yes, on the one hand, we see this in children. So it reflects like immaturity. But then I feel like it's not only kids who scapegoat. And there are instances where adults will do that too. And so in these cases, sorry, Kim, yes, go ahead.
I was gonna say there's this principle that people's behaviors are influenced because of two things. The first thing is they're trying to keep doing what they're doing because it's pleasurable. And the second thing is they don't do what they're doing, they stop what they're doing to avoid something. So it's always going to or away from something. That's just to simplify everything. Humans are complex creatures, but at the base, it really boils down to that.
So it's like a risk reward.
Yeah, what drives behavior. So it's that. In this case, I mean, you're gonna avoid punishment, of course. And that's kind of the same thing with life, right? In general, right? Like for adults, they try to avoid, I don't know, getting punished by their boss. I'm sorry, what?
A speeding ticket.
A speeding ticket, yeah. Oh yeah, I'm not drunk. Officer or something, I don't know.
I wasn't speeding, I was just following traffic.
Yeah.
All those other guys were going fast.
2 was always the magic number as an EMT for, like 19 years now. Whenever, we have to take somebody who's inebriated to the hospital. How many drinks do you have tonight? 2. It's always 2. That's the magic number is 2.
Too many.
Meanwhile, they can't. Too many, exactly. But I want to ask Kim, like someone who is like a compulsive liar and who's always casting blame on others, to avoid like any type of accountability. From a mental health standpoint, would that be criteria of like a borderline personality disorder?
We can't really say for like one symptom equals one diagnosis because there's so.
Oh no, I mean that it would be like a criteria for borderline personality disorder. So it would be, you couldn't diagnose off of that one criteria, but it would be like one aspect of it.
I think it's more of what's the intention of the lie, right? If the intention is I don't want to like be alone or something like that, that's one thing. And then if it's I'm lying just because, that's something else.
Also a manipulative thing. Like, you could say that, oh man, maybe Rand was being somewhat manipulative by blaming his friends. He wasn't. I mean, he was just being a dopey kid, but somebody can interpret it that punished.
Way. I mean,
exactly.
Generally,
Lobo's a lot bigger than he is still. He didn't,
Generally, how people associate like lying and manipulation is more of another personality disorder. It's called narcissistic personality disorder.
Oh, right.
Or sorry, antisocial personality disorder.
And narcissism is like a criteria that.
Narcissistic people are also compulsive liars.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, oh, narcissism, no. But also
no, we're not.
No, we're not. What are you talking about?
What?
No, you.
But the thing
Gaslighting you, it's all you.
Just project it right back.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned this before. For the people who are watching this and everyone who's like just listening to this or whatever, don't really lean into your diagnosis too much. You know, your diagnosis doesn't define who you are. It's really all about insurance.
Yeah.
Like it's really about what is this person? Why is this person like? Why does this person need therapy? Right? Why do we, the insurance people, need to pay for somebody else's stuff? Like they can just pay for it themselves, and then it needs to be justified, and that's where the diagnosis comes in. It needs to, fulfill medical necessity. That's the key word there. But in terms
the
of
diagnosis will stay with you for the rest of your life. It'll change from time to time, so yeah, it has to be done correctly. But it doesn't define you.
Yeah, it shouldn't define you.
No.
And it shouldn't be a reason to not change either, right?
No.
Like, oh, my therapist told me I'm antisocial, therefore I'm always going to be manipulative. I'm always going to be a liar. That's not true. People always can change. There's always a choice to change. So
it's like you said, it's all about the ICD-10 codes.
Right.
Yeah. And I kind of... two things. I love the insurance point, Kim. Thank you for saying that, because like I feel like people get so caught up in like the diagnosis from their therapist, psychologist, psychiatrist, whatever. But then like when you look at the DSM itself, like the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, like that people use to make diagnoses, if you look like kind of into the community that's actively working on the DSM, this document is like constantly being updated and changed, and there are constantly like new details being added or little things taken away, and it's literally all because of insurance. And there have been changes made during the pandemic even to help people access care related to things like long-term grieving, and things that were not necessarily mentioned in the DSM before, but people still undeniably need care for that. So thank you for bringing that up, because I feel like a diagnosis should never embody a whole person. It's kind of like the last thing we were talking about, where one aspect of your identity shouldn't be your entire identity.
Yeah. In fact, embrace it, right? Oh yeah, I am a person with, let's say, anxiety. I'm a person with generalized anxiety. Okay, great. But I also sing and, like I'm a teacher or whatever it is, right? So, yeah. And then you serve as a great example for other people who have that diagnosis.
Exactly. Yes. Oh, I love it. Love it.
You're good at this.
And I have like a license to prove it.
Have you ever thought about doing this professionally?
Oh man. Yeah. And guys, for those people, I am getting fired up here. For those of you viewers who think, oh, I don't need therapy, I'm just crazy. Hold on. First of all, everyone is crazy. That's number one. Number two, you're watching this, meaning you have, you like Dungeons and Dragons. Have you ever heard of gaming disorder? Because that's a thing. That therapists are starting to be oh, okay. Go on, what? They're like Googling it, like, what is gaming disorder?
Yeah, Google's about to get like a spike in the search engine.
It's like, oh, I'm not into DSM. Oh, really?
Yeah, exactly. Diagnoses keep changing. Like with every DSM, even the organization of the DSM changed dramatically from 4 to 5. So like, you're not married to your diagnosis. It's just in this one moment in time, what do all your kind of, or what do a handful of your characteristics line up with in some book? That is not who you are as a person.
And the DSM is not the Bible of psychology. It's a guide.
It's a guide.
Exactly. It's a guide that is constantly being revised.
Mm-hmm.
I barely open it.
Yeah.
Disclaimer. Where is it anyways? I don't know.
I'm sure no one from any insurance companies will watch this video, right? We're fine. We're fine.
Oh no, we have a list of it online and stuff. It's fine.
Oh, okay.
Anyways.
Anyways. So
I wanted to get back to the way Bobby was portraying Bilbo and his interaction with Rand. What he was doing, it kind of reminded me of my own father. He wasn't a former adventurer, but he was career military in the Air Force. So he was, emotionally speaking, he was a little like blocked off, I think. Probably from things that, his training, things that he saw. He served in World War II in Korea. So I was very careful to, how I told the line with him. But there's never an instance where he really got mad at me or yelled at me. And he was always concerned, like, if as a kid, I really did stupid things as a kid, to be honest. I just played a lot of D&D when I was a teenager. I didn't go off doing foolish things that other kids do to experiment. But a couple of times, as we do, we screwed up. And he was always, his attitude was always like, all right, are you okay? That's the first thing. Are you okay? And then whatever, accountability and punishment came later. That came later as, stern talking to.
Steve, I really love how you kind of mentioned, like, your dad had his own story, which was not an easy path for him to take.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the end of the day, he was able to come to you kind of with that big picture perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you touched on something interesting, which was the idea that he was very blocked off for a lot of your childhood. And this actually kind of segues perfectly into clip number 3. And I want to come back to what you said after we watch this clip, because basically in this clip, Bilbo kind of reveals to Rand for the very first time more about his past and more about his life as an adventurer. So if we can get clip number 3.
Listen, Rand, I know you idolized me, right? As a boy, you heard some things of my adventuring days, but I was a different man back then, all right?
You're my hero, Dad.
The caves. You talk about these caves like there's something that I did that was so special. It was the worst time of my life, and it's time you heard about it.
What do you mean?
Son, I didn't go there by myself, killing monsters. When I went, I had friends that came with me. We had what people call an adventuring party. A whole group of us. We each specialized in something. I'm the only one that came out of that cave that day. The horrors that are in there, unspeakable.
What happened to the others?
They didn't make it.
I look at Caesar like, didn't make it. Do you mean they died?
Afraid so.
But you made it out alive.
Barely. And you know why I made it out?
Because you're my dad. He's getting all teary now. What do you mean? Your friends died. He's all upset. You never told me this before.
Thought I could, I don't know, shelter you from it. Keep you safe.
Does Mom know?
Mom knows some things.
Damn, Bob. Damn,
Right?
you're incredible. Holy shit. I swear here? Holy crap.
It's fine, man. We're just being real. But yeah, that scene just, it hit my heart.
Damn.
I love the accent you're putting on. It has like this Western vibe too, like the grizzled old gunfighter.
Yeah.
This is not the life he wants, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, Steve, when you mentioned like your dad was blocked off a lot of the time when you were young, it kind of makes me think, oh, well, here Bilbo was telling Rand, like, yeah, I didn't tell you a lot of what I went through, and it's because I thought maybe I could shelter you. So I think often like people shield their children or whoever they're caring for from the full story of their past trauma. As a way or protective mechanism. And I think as we go through life, there's like this balance, right? Like disclosure. How much do we say? When is it appropriate to say those things? And how much do we actually disclose? So I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this scene because I thought this was so powerful.
Yeah, I mean, I think you want to shelter your children. I'm sorry, Kim.
Oh.
You meant to say something?
Yeah, well, I actually wanted to. I think we said this in the first episode about veterans, right? About people who suffered trauma, PTSD type of trauma, where they've lost people. That's really hard to get over, right? Just get over, and it takes years. Maybe it doesn't even like you don't truly get over it sometimes, and to start a family, a new life. That's like a completely different world. So, I mean, sometimes it's not even about the kids, it's about themselves. Like they're trying to run away from their past, their nightmares, to separate that chapter of their life, trying to close it, to start fresh because it was so gnarly and gritty, you know. Losing an adventuring party, that's tough.
Yeah, it's a big deal. Yeah, my dad never talked about his experiences. And he had his own personal trauma.
Yeah.
He didn't have a father. The guy walked out on him when he was just a little kid. So going from that to the military and staying in there for 25 years and starting a family and trying to become a father himself, that was a lot. But that was always his number one priority. Like, you know, myself, my two siblings, are you guys okay? And to this day, at 98, I go to visit him. He's living in a nursing home. First question is, are you okay? If I get in a word in edgewise because he talks, he talks quite, pretty fast. I'm like, well, never mind me. How are you doing? And he's like, no. And a million questions. Are you okay? Is this okay? Is that okay? And so that's where he's always coming from.
Wow. And gosh, that's so beautiful. It's like, and so when we think about like how much we share in trying to take care of each other, this also in my mind connects to the role of being a teacher. And when you are, the one adult in a room full of children who are, well, maybe they're not always eager to learn, but they're there to learn. And you as the teacher, you're there to help them grow their minds and develop into well-rounded humans. And so with teachers also, there's this delicate balance where you want to disclose a little bit, like you want to be a human to your students. And so you want to share a little bit of your personality with them. But you also don't want to share too much where it ends up like blurring the lines between like a casual and a professional relationship. So I guess like, Bob, do you want to, and like no pressure, but I'd be very curious to hear, because you've been a teacher for a while now, and like
100 years, yeah.
And
are you an elf, Bob? Crap, I couldn't see your ears from the headphones, so
just old.
Oh, okay.
That's why he wears the over-ear headphones.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. But I will say, like, from somebody who used to be one of your coworkers, I know for a fact that like all of your students really respect you. And like I had classes who also had you as a teacher, and like I would so often hear from my students about how much they loved your classes and how you can be strict, but they still really respect you and they have so much fun. And so I guess, can you tell us a little bit about how you strike that balance with the kids that you take care of?
I'm an absolute tyrant, that's for sure. And they don't say those things to me. So but thank you. I appreciate the kind words, and I care about the kids. I want them to do well, and I just I think the way that in terms of, I guess, teaching is a little different than being a parent, obviously, but when I'm in the room, I share enough about my family to make them have a connection with me. But it's you have to have this. I think the language you use, the body language that you use as well, it needs to be professional, and so they know that you expect work from them as opposed to just like we're hanging out and chatting about my son's soccer game or whatever, but talking about your family makes you human, right? Talking about your shared experiences makes you more relatable, and then again, as long as you keep that, it has to be an air of authority. You have to be separate from them, and I think they'll respect you and want to do well for you. That's really what the key is. It's a fine line, though. And there have been times where, like, you think that the kids are all, they respect you and they're going to do work for you, and then you have that day where nobody gets anything done, and they're just, constantly calling out and chatting, and that happens, and you just got to reel it back in and take each day one at a time. But yes, I think parenting too, like the example here in this clip, right? You saw that obviously Rand respects his dad, and his dad has this air of authority for being his father, who's a hero. He said, right? You're my hero. But, you're learning that he kept a lot from you, and on purpose. Similar to, like, you don't share everything with kids in school. You don't share everything with anybody, pretty much. I don't think so. There's some things that you just keep to yourself, but I don't know. I think that's all normal, and as long as you are able to express things when you need to, that's a good thing. It's hard to, like, that example, and even with your dad, your real life dad. I mean, I think Kim said it perfectly. The trauma you experience, earlier in your life, you may never get over, and it may be very uncomfortable to talk about. No matter how comfortable you are with the person, how closely related you are, you don't want to bring that back up.
Yeah. That's how kids learn boundaries too, because I knew never to ask him. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with war movies, and I would never ask him to sit down with me and watch it. He would walk into the room and he would laugh at it, say, "Oh, like, this is just fiction," or whatever. Interestingly enough, him and I did watch Saving Private Ryan together, and the Normandy scene at the beginning, he got a little shook, and he said, "Well, that's the closest thing I've seen in a movie to real life."
Wow.
Tough movie, especially that opening scene. That's
yeah.
Yeah.
You said, yeah. So that's what he indicated to me. I'm like, oh wow. So okay. And
yeah, I also
conversation for that.
Yeah, I loved how you, as the Rand character in that interaction, you approached your dad, Bilbo, from a place of, like, understanding and empathy, and you said, okay, like, yeah, I understand. Like, I understand why. And I think that's really a beautiful thing, where, like we were saying earlier, you offer understanding to other people, and whether those people are just, like, strangers in the street, or somebody who is minimizing and marginalizing you, or a family member that you're related to, we can practice extending our understanding to those people, and also not get too worn down when things don't pan out perfectly every time. And what was it, Kim? What were you saying? Like, stay kind, or whatever it was. Yeah. Don't lose hope.
Well, we're extensions of our characters. So when like I said, that whole exchange was reminding me of my own father. So, like, not to get too personal, but growing up, it wasn't always easy with him because of the emotional detachment. But I understood, like, that there are issues in the past. So, that was, I don't remember actually saying to him, "Okay, it's okay, Dad, I understand." But I always think things like that. And I talked to my mom about it a lot. And so that whole interaction, I'm like, yeah, it's, that's what I would say if I were to say that to my dad.
It feels like such a healing approach.
Hmm.
I'm getting a lot of clarity right now. I don't know about you all.
Don't forget to like and subscribe for more clarity. Yes. But actually, Steve, again, a great segue. Your dad, struggling in his own ways. This connects very well to clip number 4, where we're basically going to see now Bilbo and Rand talk about the sword. Okay, so Rand, when he ran away from home, he stole a sword that his dad had always had at home. Rand didn't know much about the sword, but he knew it was a cool adventuring sword. So he stole it and he went out with it.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and now Bilbo is going to reveal a little bit more about the sword, a little bit more about the backstory of how he came to acquire the sword. So, clip number 4, please.
There's no easy way to say this, Rand, but the reason I got out of that cave that day, was able to defeat those monsters in the caves of chaos, because that sword spoke to me. All right, it gave me powers that I don't ever want to wield again, and I don't want you to either.
Dad, I don't know what you're talking about. Did you bump your head in that cave or something?
I wish that was all it was, but you need to never use that sword again.
He seems troubled. I guess I could give it back to you. I'll have to buy another blade. But Dad, it feels so right in my hand. I mean, you'll stand up. Honestly, I'd rather keep it.
Well, look, I understand your desire to explore, and he looks over to Caesar as well, and includes you in this part of it. I really do. I was an adventurer myself. I've lived that life. I know the highs that it can give you, but there's real low lows, and you got to understand that. You're an adult now, both of you.
Whew. So
yeah, Bob, you always
right.
I just feel it all the time.
Oh,
These clips, man.
Dude, I mean, it's all Bob.
I know. What about
You're
Bob?
being a little brat there, though. I said don't use this sword.
What a brat. No, just kidding.
God, your son just never listens to you, huh?
Doesn't listen.
So for me, when I saw this clip, I thought that and maybe I'm extrapolating a little bit, but I thought the sword in this scenario was kind of an amazing analogy for the survival skills that people pick up in order to get through a time of trauma. When there's an extended crisis period, or some sort of traumatic situation that people live through, people, whether they choose to or not, people will develop some sort of coping mechanism or some sort of survival technique just to be able to get through that experience. And a lot of those survival techniques, coping mechanisms, they help us get through those moments, that specific traumatic situation, whatever we may be experiencing. But then later on, when we have, or hopefully, once we get to a place of safety, a lot of the time those survival skills, we carry them with us. And those coping mechanisms can then become maladaptive. And those coping techniques that we picked up during that period of trauma actually end up hurting us once we are in a place of safety. So this was kind of an analogy that I saw here with the sword, and Bilbo talking about how, the sword, helped me out of that cave, but I never want to touch it again. And I thought that was a really beautiful kind of delivery of that concept, Bob.
Thank you. I got a lot of the insight from you. Obviously, you gave me a couple of things. I don't know how much you want me to share with
Oh, you can share whatever. It's all open here. Yeah.
Behind the
clarity
scenes sort of stuff. But the behind the scenes, she gave me like a page and a half of like things that are like motives and things that Bilbo might or might not do, but to kind of play him as I envisioned. And so I made sure I was like, okay, that's gonna happen, that's gonna happen, that's gonna happen. And then when it came to the sword, I wanted to make sure that I saw this almost like Bilbo in Lord of the Rings. When he's away from the ring for long enough, he knows that it's bad, but when it's close, it's hard to resist. So I want him to do his very best to like resist it because he's been away from it for so long. And he knows what it can do. And I don't think did Bilbo tell you what the name of the sword is?
No.
Not yet.
So I won't say it because I think you'll probably learn that later. But when the sword speaks to you, it doesn't want you to do nice things. It wants you to do the worst possible things. So in a way, you're right. It could be like, alcohol or drug abuse. It could be that sort of real world, like you said, survival mechanism that you just pick up. That's not good. It's not healthy for you. And so, so he didn't want to touch that again, but he knows that if you use it, you might fall down the same path that he was in. So, he's your son. He wants you to stay safe.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like the kid's gonna have to find out for himself.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's another thing too.
Dad can say whatever he wants, but
right. Yeah. Well, in that clip too, he even tells you he's not gonna like physically force you. Right. He's not gonna take it from you. You're an adult now, so you.
That's right.
He can't be with you 24/7. And although my son's only 4, when he's how old's Brand? 17.
17.
I mean, I'm not going to be with him 24/7, and I can't stop him from everything. But I'll be there for him and guide him as much as I can. But can't totally stop him from doing bad things. Can't do it now.
Well, I love the idea of the cursed sword, like the analogy for drug addiction, substance abuse. Like, I was telling Michelle, I was telling you about, like, when we come up to this idea about the stories of Michael Moorcock, Elric of Melniboné, and he had this cursed sword, Stormbringer, which gives him strength because he's quite weak without it. But it's almost like taking a hit of heroin or whatever, a dangerous substance, and he's addicted to it. So I love the whole idea of the cursed sword. And when I just thought, just watching that clip, I remember thinking back, when he kind of stood up to his dad, saying, "Oh, I prefer to keep it." I just thought it just flashed in my mind. Oh, Bilbo telling Gandalf, "No, I'm going to keep the ring." At the very beginning, when he's like, "You said you'd leave it for Frodo." He says, "No." That whole exchange, the movie is very similar to the book. No, I prefer to keep it. But also, it's interesting how the sword can be like a coping mechanism. It's almost like it's a manifestation of like a real coping mechanism, like depersonalization, derealization, which helps you at the moment. And Michelle can explain this a lot better than me, but which will help you at the moment with your trauma by taking you out of reality. Your mind is basically shutting down, but eventually you have to come back to reality. So if you take that with you and, say it doesn't leave, that could cause problems later on in your life.
Kim, why do we do that?
Those coping mechanisms have their purpose right there. And then
why do we do that? Why do humans do that? We do.
Why
that.
do humans do what? Why do
we
humans
justify
cope?
in our minds that you know what? I know this is bad, but we should just do it
because you gain something out of it.
After all, why shouldn't I have more ice cream?
Yeah, it gives you joy, right? It's going back to the behavior, right? You're doing something continuously because it benefits you in some way. It gives you pleasure. It gives you a high. You forget all your problems when you're high.
Yeah.
You forget all your problems when you're binging on ice cream. You forget all your problems when you're gaming or hanging out with friends or partying, right? And I mean, inherently, things like binging on ice cream because you had one bad day, no problem, right? Like, okay, fine, I deserve to indulge.
A whole week
Right.
of days.
Oh yeah. Then it becomes maladaptive. It then develops into a habit. And when something is a habit, that's the danger of it, right? When it's a bad habit. Yeah. Because then if you sense that it starts to affect your personal life, your family life, right? Your relationships with other people, then that's a clear sign that it's not worth it anymore.
I love that distinction. Like, I think a lot of the time people will just naturally pick up things in life, whether it's traumatic or not. Like, we're just, by nature, we learn as we live. That kind of we carry those lessons through life. And my next question was going to be, how do we learn to recognize when the things that we've picked up are no longer good for us, no longer helpful or healthy? So I love that, like, helpful way to discern. Like, if you notice that your habits are now impacting your personal relationships or your physical health, and you notice, like, oh, okay, so these important aspects of my life are now suffering because of this habit that I can't let go of. Maybe it's time to revisit the motivation behind that habit.
Yeah.
And could these coping mechanisms, say, like, the depersonalization, could it become, if it doesn't stop, could it become something organic that your mind is just used to it, Kim?
Yes.
And I mean, if it affects you every day,
yeah,
in your real life, could that turn into a psychosis as well?
Psychosis, not really. I mean, if you continue to eat ice cream all day, all night, every night, I don't think you're gonna start
not ice cream,
grandmother.
An ice cream. I mean, that'd be a great psychosis to have.
That would be interesting.
But say derealization, where you think it's a fantasy, and if that doesn't stop, and you're walking through life as it's a daydream, I mean, could that be considered at that point, like, oh, you're going into a psychosis? It's affecting your everyday life, and
psychosis is different. Rather than, what is it called? I forgot the term. Delusion. Delusion is your. I don't know how to describe it anymore. I'm blanking out right now. I'm sorry.
I have a question for Steve.
Just stop with that ice cream.
It's the ice cream I need anyway.
Steve, now that we've discussed it, we know that the sword is bad, and you should realize it's bad. Are you going to use it?
I think at this point it has a hold on him. And who's in control of who? Is the sword possessing him? How much control does he still have?
Master of puppets.
Exactly. He is. He's young, impressionable. He's innocent. That's what evil does. It affects someone who meets that criteria. Hence, Linda Blair in one of our favorite movies. So the sword is manipulating him. So I don't think he has the ability right now, and it feels good. Like we talked about, when he kills, it's like a rush. Like Elric, when he kills, it's a rush. The Black Razor from White Plume Mountain, it's a soul-stealing sword. You kill a creature, and you'll get its hit points. So you're stronger. I mean, it's temporary, but you're stronger automatically.
Right. You gain their.
So I don't think. So yeah, I don't think he can at this point. So yeah, I think he's going to keep on using that sword. Eventually, find out what his name is, and
now
we'll see what happens.
What will derail him from using that sword if he becomes more aware of how it affects other people, right? Like, if, let's say, someone close to him, maybe the avenging partner, or maybe his dad, right, starts like getting sick or dying, then that's when you start pondering, like, is it still worth it? And if you continuously choose the sword, then that's like continuously choosing alcohol or whatever it is.
I think it depends on the malicious nature of the sword. We haven't really seen what it's going to do yet. He gets a rush out of killing things, so if it makes him a homicidal maniac, then I think that, hopefully at that point the better angel of his nature will take over and he'll cast it aside. But we will see.
Yeah. We will see. Who knows? Maybe the pull factors will just be too compelling at
That's
that point.
also up to our most excellent DM, Michelle. So,
Yeah.
Just flailing wildly behind the scenes. Yes. Wow. Okay. All right. I love that. And it's just like, I find it so interesting to think about how all of these habits, these coping mechanisms, these behaviors that we pick up over time. And you guys gave some great examples like alcohol and drug use, partying, dissociating, derealization, all these various ways in which people cope. Yeah, they impact not only ourselves, but then they can start to impact those around us. Those are things that we can be mindful of to become aware of, okay, like maybe I need to re-examine my own behaviors and what I've learned. All right, so to wrap things up, I have one final clip that I just needed to include here because this is our first moment of real heroism and just like a truly noble moment, I think, where Bilbo, Rand, and Caesar, they had been just quietly chatting by some fields, getting updates from each other. And all of a sudden, these twig blights appeared and started to attack the boys. And there was a moment where like Bilbo reacts to seeing Rand get attacked. Unfortunately, Rand, he had the stat block of a commoner because Rand had no training whatsoever. And so he has 4 HP, this many. And so the twig blights ended up taking him out. And this is what ensued afterwards. So clip number 6, please.
All right, so Bilbo is looking in horror as his son just was taken down by one of these twig blights. So he's going to run to him. I'm going to use... No, what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag him underneath the railing here. And I'll take the attacks of opportunity from these two guys because I don't think I can avoid it at this point. And I'll drag his body 5, 10, 15, 20. 5, 10, 15, 20. And I'll just go one more, 25. Did they hit me?
Okay, so I'm sorry, remind me what your AC is again?
16.
16. Okay, both attacks of opportunity missed.
All right.
Nice.
I'm going to, so that's, I would assume is my movement and like grabbing him. I leave the sword. I don't care about the sword. I'm going to leave that there.
Sure.
I'm going to drag him out there. And actually, if you don't mind, I won't go all the way. I'll only go 5, 10, 15 to get him on the other side here.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to come back over him and stand where he was. So that's my full movement, 30 feet. And then I'm going to use Action Surge so that I can still attack. Nice. And I'm going to use my Scythe for this one.
Ooh.
So I'm going to attack this one.
All right. So, Bilbo the hero, saving Rand from certain doom. I just wanted to include that because I thought it was a really cool, noble moment.
Yeah. That's like an example of like a character doing character stuff, not like doing the optimized movement kind of thing for the battle, for the combat. It's more of the role play.
I also thought strategically too, if I draw the attacks of opportunity from the blights and get in front, right, they're going to try to attack me. And I have far more hit points, so that means they would be, because they were, I think it was sound that got them attention, right?
Yep.
So if I get him out of danger, draw the attacks of opportunity, then at least anybody else, if he were to, Dru came and healed him, he can get up and walk away without a problem. He wouldn't have any issue. So, but yeah, character like driven because he would take all the hits, for his son, and he's got that big scythe. Bring it on.
No, it's hilarious. You're like,
It
I don't care.
was.
I don't care about the sword, and then suddenly I'm gonna take this big
I'll
side.
take it.
I'm like, no wonder you don't care about the sword.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, the scythe doesn't talk to me, so
True.
you know, pretty
A
good.
little less unnerving.
So
Yeah.
it was part nobility, it was part loving father,
Yeah.
and it was part experienced role playing.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I love that.
That was a very good segment. Very
You know, I should come on more often.
I wish I could have
My
played.
ego is going.
Yeah, I know, right?
You are welcome.
Unfortunately, I had to play Rand as he is.
What's that?
I said, fortunately, I had to play Rand, like, realistically.
Yeah.
So
He's a little,
that means like doing everything that your instincts tell you that, oh, he shouldn't do this. Well, but he doesn't know that. Do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that
Which is
speaks
fun.
a lot.
Challenging but fun.
Right.
Yeah. And I really like that you're conveying kind of that level of life experience or lack thereof. And Rand is just a kid. And so even though Steve the human has a lot more life experience than Rand the kid, nonetheless, like you're sticking to just like an accurate portrayal of like a 17-year-old boy who doesn't really understand the ways of the world and is throwing
the lad
himself.
needs some sword training. He's not Rey Skywalker, where he's just gonna pick up a lightsaber. And no offense to the movie, I love those movies, but he needs some training.
Yeah.
And that's gonna take time.
It's not as so simple or barely an inconvenience. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I really appreciated that in that scene. It's like Rand, perhaps for the first time in his life, was really getting hit hard with the consequences of his lack of life experience. And
literally and figuratively.
True. And then Bilbo, his battle-hardened, adventuring, like big buff dad, like he's like, okay, well, like I have greater life experience, and you know what? I know that I can take a hit. I'm willing to take a hit for you. As
like those stories, like moms lifting up cars and stuff.
The adrenaline rush.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking there.
Mm-hmm.
I totally see that.
I'll take them all.
Yeah.
I can see some of the old timers, the old gammers, back in Daenerys, hearing about this thing. Young whippersnapper, he got what he deserved. That'll learn him.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. And I think that sometimes some people do have that mentality of like, you know what, you made a mistake, you take the consequences. This is how you learn.
Mm.
Really brought it full circle there, Steve. To the start.
It was my plan all along.
Yeah.
I had a flow chart.
Nice. Came prepared.
There you go.
Love it. Okay, so oh gosh, I mean, those were all the clips that I prepared that I wanted to talk about. Before we wrap, does anyone want to mention anything that you have left in your mind that you want to express before we end this video for all of our adoring fans?
I'll just say, Kim, I just met you 5 minutes before we went on, right?
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
I mean, you're so knowledgeable.
Oh.
So,
yes, it was worth it. All those years. Cool.
All that student debt. Yes.
Think about going into this as a profession, I think.
Thanks, Mom.
No, but seriously, all joking aside, you're very knowledgeable and also easy to talk to, and I feel like you related things very well. And I this is not my area of expertise. I know the game. Like that's my area, I guess, that I have expertise in. But yeah, it was really great chatting with you and Steve as well, and Michelle. Not to diminish you two, but she's great.
She is, yes. I am so thankful.
Geez. So now my ego's rising.
You all need to go out and buy new headsets after
Right?
this.
Right? We can't fit anymore.
You can tell that you're dedicated to your craft, Kim, and that's really nice to see.
That's an honor to hear. Thank you, Bob.
Yeah. I could not agree more.
Like, oh, thank God. It's all worth it. All right.
Yeah. All right, so thank you so much, guys, for being here. I felt like this was such a wonderful and really just thoughtful session or conversation. I feel like we have just so much clarity. And, you know, if somebody were to watch this first and then go back and watch the play episode, it would maybe even give more insight and kind of more reasoning behind all the choices that the characters made throughout the
That's
session.
actually an interesting idea. To like watch, it's almost like going backward, right? Like going end to start, Quentin Tarantino style.
Yeah, like the director's cut.
Yeah. Interesting.
See, now I have to say something.
Do it, Kim.
No,
bring it.
I know I'm not in the majority in this one. I don't mind spoilers. I don't mind spoilers for like movies or TV shows and whatnot. I actually prefer to read the spoilers first, and everyone's like cringing about that. Like,
wow.
But see,
I take back everything I said about you.
And the reason for that is what you guys are talking about just now. Is it when I watch the movie itself, it helps me gain more clarity. Like, oh, I see this person's motivation. I see why the director did this and that or whatever. It's just a different way of watching things. It helps me appreciate the craft more because I see it more as an art form. So
I love that. So
you're not alone. I do the same thing.
See? Yes.
A movie I really want to see, I wiki it first. I'll read the entire plot. I did that for all the Star Wars sequels. I did it for the new Batman. Which
Bob's like, my life is a lie.
Michelle, please tell me you.
But it's for the same reason. It like helps me understand what I'm about to see, what's going to happen. It's part of anxiety, where I'm like, I got to know what's going on. But it helps me understand because inevitably in some of these movies, I want to know what's happening.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really ruin it for me at all. The anticipations, you're like, oh, this is coming and this is coming.
Yeah, it enhances it.
It does. I mean, reading about is one thing. Seeing how it's portrayed on the screen is totally different.
Mm-hmm.
So, and all my friends think I'm crazy for doing it, but
yeah, I get the same thing.
I have to do it.
It's funny because like when people say, oh, sorry, spoilers, I have, I guess, a similar sentiment where I don't like seek out spoilers. You know, I'm not gonna like look them up on Wikipedia or anything, but I really don't mind spoilers because like when I'm watching movies or TV shows, I feel like my attitude is similar to yours, Kim, where I'm more into like the cinematography and the art and like how the story is delivered. Yeah. As opposed to just the details of the story.
Right.
So plus the spoilers helps me, seeing how it's portrayed on the screen, it helps me justify paying like $20 for an IMAX showing. So
you think you know somebody.
Bob feels so betrayed right now.
Clarity. Yes.
A lot of clarity today. But thank you for having me on. I do, even despite these last few moments of conversation, I would happily talk again at some point.
Yes, you are a friend of the channel. Your channel is friends with our channel. Everyone.
You're my dad. You got to come back. He needs his dad.
That's right. You'll have to return at some point. And you should like and subscribe to Michelle's channel because this is the new channel, right? We got to make sure we get those people back.
Yeah. So there was a little technical mishap that happened and we ended up needing to make a whole new YouTube channel, all the same content and like same everything. It's just new link. That's all. So like and subscribe if you haven't already. This is our new home here. And, okay. Well,
he strikes again.
It's okay, Dru. See, this is life. It's life. It happens. And it's not about the break. It's about the repair. It's about how you move forward. So we're moving forward. Like and subscribe to the new channel. We're happy to have you. And
nice.
Okay. I'm glad I'm glad that everybody here is participating in this clarity episode. You know, like we have everyone's voice.
Drew should do this more.
Yeah.
Just random
Agreed.
punchlines everywhere.
Yep.
That should be his thing now.
It's the whole thing. Yeah. All right. So.
And I think, and I would recommend watching this first and then watching the adventuring video.
Yeah, don't be
we were
like
just talking about.
No.
Dang, well, a lot of divisiveness.
You'll go into the game with so much clarity you can't stand it.
Yeah, that's true. And one last thing I'll say related to this, I'm reminded of there's a website called the Movie Watcher's Guide to Enlightenment. And I don't know if any of you have heard of this, but it's mwge.com or something like that. And it's basically just like a whole bunch of different movies with commentary or with narration that talks about what is happening in the movie, and basically like a clarity episode, like finding meaning and like kind of diving deep into the profound nature and the messages that the movies have to share. So mwge.com, or I forget the ending, but I'll put the link in the description after. Org, thank you so much.
It's a whole new sponsor.
Yeah, so mwge.org. Check it out if you like movies and learning about what we're talking about today. And so I guess that brings us to the end. Thank you so much, you guys, for being here. This has been such a beautiful conversation, and I appreciate all of you and your input and your insight. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
And
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
it is a joy. It is an honor to be friends with wise minds such as yourselves. And to everyone who is out there watching, whether you are watching right now with us on this beautiful Saturday morning, or whether you're watching sometime in the future, hello, future people. Thank you for joining us as well. And I hope that listening to our conversation helped you find a little clarity in your life, and maybe helps you kind of learn a couple of things that you can then carry on into your real lived experience. So without further ado, thank you all, and we'll see you next time.